Well, when it comes to Sundowns, I think they pretty much, almost 80% of the time got the league title wrapped up purely because of the squad they possess and the quality and across the park, from the goalkeeper to the striker. He knows where the back of the net is, and even here commentators are sometimes surprised of how we actually managed to find the back of the net. But that's something, again, when you develop yourself to a way that you don't even have to look at the goalpost, because that's one thing that doesn't move, the ball moves. Yeah, I think, when it comes to Kaizer Chiefs, it's always difficult to please everyone. Even when you do make big signings, some people will say, maybe it's over the hill, he's a little bit the other side of possibly giving his best. But listen, I was very ecstatic, obviously, getting it through the hardest way, which is the playoff. You got to play more games. You go to, obviously, they get opportunity to play at Wembley, which is great. I was fortunate enough to be in the last season when they were in League One to go and attend a game with Mark Fish. And even that...
Groot
Yes. I didn't have breakfast, so don't ask me anything but breakfast. If you want to do a voice check, I can count for you, but nothing else.
Otherwise, Grootman, you good?
Yes, all good, thank you.
No, good, Grootman. So today is Discussion Wednesdays. This is where we go deep and discuss, mostly all things football. But because when Grootman, you were local and international legend, we're going to focus on both.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Grootman, but let's start here at home. I'd like to consider you a Kaizer Chiefs legend because you were part of the glamour days at Naturena when they still deserve to be called the glamour boys.
Okay.
When everything still made sense. Grootman, we were all looking forward to the players that they're going to sign during this transfer window. And they've announced a couple of players, but none of the players are Pesitao. None of the players is Sipumbule, Baseka Mako, and all these other guys that we were hoping they were going to sign. What do you make of their current signings, and how far do you see the team going this season?
Yeah, I think, when it comes to Kaizer Chiefs, it's always difficult to please everyone. Even when you do make big signings, some people will say, maybe it's over the hill, he's a little bit the other side of possibly giving his best. But I think also sometimes you just have to give the coach and whoever is making the signings, the technical committee, opportunity to prove their worth. I think they have players that can make a difference. They have players that obviously need to understand more the philosophy of the coach, and more importantly is to implement it on the field. I think that's probably the one thing that's been the one, I think, negative for last season is the inconsistency. You can't win 2 games and then go for 3 games not winning again and then 1 game. So you, as a professional, as an individual, as a team, I think it's all about consistency, and that's something that I think Kaizer Chiefs definitely needs to probably get better at this season. As far as the players they've signed, it might be unknown to us, but I do believe once they hit the ground running, I think a lot of people even last season had question marks about Lelepo. He seemed to be a rough diamond they've found, and similarly it can be with the other players this season as well.
And then, Grootman, I think personally where they lacked a lot this past season is up front. We saw the players, Yumtutuzi, Shabalalas, Yumfundo Vilagazi, they played well and they were able to build up. But when it came to the finishing, Shiva Veiro couldn't come to the picture. Lelepo tried, but he also couldn't deliver how we would have hoped for him to deliver. And then you also have Agustin Sereno, he's playing quite well. He doesn't have anyone that's assisting him. If anything, what advice would you give Coach Nabi up front where it's most important, because that's where we score goals?
Yeah, when it comes to the striking department, everybody's going to look for that striker that can give you probably 15 goals a season. Even you look at Sundowns, what they've bought and players they've brought in. Obviously, they found a great combination, especially in Ribeiro and Reyners, as getting goals, but not just goals, but even assisting each other as teammates. So I always, I don't put too much emphasis on the striking department, because also that complements your whole team structure. If the team is doing well, I think the strikers itself will benefit. And you can see that again at Sundowns. When you score goals, it also needs to be across the park. Your midfielders, your defenders, everybody needs to contribute as far as winning a title is concerned. It's not just up to strikers. And that creativity is something that has been lacking at Chiefs. or the conversion rate for that matter. I think that's probably the bigger issue, that the conversion rate is too low for the amount of opportunities they create. And to find that striker will cost a bit of money. And, everybody assumes that Chiefs will just have the deep pockets and go and get those players. But sometimes you have to find a balance in spending that type of money. You can't just do it on one player when you're looking to sign 8 players. So when it comes to individual obviously, I think attributes and desire, I do feel a lot of the strikers can put in more work. I've experienced it myself at different clubs. They want to score goals on the weekend, but they don't want to put in that extra hour after training. So I think that for me is lacking a lot in South Africa. And I have said it in the past, and I got a lot of stick for that. But at the end of the day, I always believe if you do the work in the dark, the reward will come in public. And some of our players just don't want to do the work.
No, you mentioned something quite important, Khotman. And then if we look at Kaizer Chiefs' rivals, on the other hand, Orlando Pirates, they're out here in the market signing important players. Kwaiba, they signed also Sipho Mbule, and all these are guys that have tasted what it's like to play at the high level, be under pressure, and they know how to deliver. And I think this season, they're trying their best to challenge Mamelodi Sundowns, who I also believe that they're in the market and they're probably going to sign important players. Do you think that it's a financial situation where Mamelodi Sundowns is willing to spend close to like 10 million signing players, and the Chiefs and Pirates are always like, nope, let's develop and let's go for a player that's been rejected? Or do you think that just whoever's signing players at these two clubs is just not willing to spend, but the teams do have money?
Yeah, when it comes to the money side, I think it's a question that everybody's always asking. It's 2 massive clubs in Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs. But when you're competing with Mamelodi Sundowns and what they are spending on individual players themselves, not just locally, but even bringing in players from South America, it's always going to be difficult to compete with. That's why you need to do your best, and both the Pirates and Chiefs have great development structures, and they've tried, obviously, in the past to bring those players into the first team. And I think that you can benefit, but you've got to find, obviously, again, the right balance between introducing young players and having more experienced players around them. So Pirates, obviously, everybody's hoping that they can have the same success again after Rivero has left. It's always going to be a little bit of a tricky, sticky situation, because the coach had a great 3 years with the club, winning quite a few trophies, and now a new coach has come in, also brought in new players. So don't just expect success to happen again, because it takes a bit of time for a new coach to get comfortable with the players to understand the coach, and also to get the results. So the players they've signed, I think obviously in the Betway Premiership they've done well. They've proven themselves. Hence, Pirates were first to grab these guys. And it's not always about getting the players. Sometimes also there's a preference from the player side. If the players, family maybe are Pirate supporters, it's not easy to sign for Kaizer Chiefs. So I think there's a lot of things in the background we have to consider, and why players sometimes choose one club over the other.
Khotman, sticking with Mamelodi Sundowns for a bit. Rulani Mukwena left. Mangoba Mngiti took over. And I'll ask you this because you're a coach yourself. Mangoba Mngiti took over from him. As he was doing what he was doing, then they let go of him, and then they introduced Miguel Cardoso. But ever since he took over, he doesn't seem to understand the shoe shine and piano style of play of Mamelodi Sundowns. We saw what he did at the CAF Champions League. He has himself to blame for losing that final. He goes also out to the FIFA Club World Cup. He has the quality, he has the players, but just doesn't know how to use them and when to use his players. How far do you see him going this coming season?
Well, when it comes to Sundowns, I think they pretty much, almost 80% of the time got the league title wrapped up, purely because of the squad they possess and the quality, and across the park, from the goalkeeper to the striker. It's more about the Champions League. Will he be able to give them that Champions League that's been eluding them for the last couple of years? Last year came close again, but for Mamelodi Sundowns, it's always about competing on the bigger stage. I think the Premiership, they found a way of getting a squad together where they can play 2 or 3 different teams, consecutively, because of the quality they have. And also when it comes to, I think, the makeup of the team, no disrespect to any coach, but I think over the last few years, that Sundowns team it's a well-oiled machine, and sometimes you don't even need a coach to be in the touchline because everything they do, everybody understands each other. They haven't made drastic changes to the squad or playing staff, and all the players know exactly, their roles and responsibility, which makes actually a coach's job quite easy, And for Cardoso, I think the pressure will come when it comes to the CAF Champions League. That is where I think Mamelodi Sundowns want more success. And if he doesn't get it this season, it's going to be difficult for them to retain him.
Hodman, Mamelodi Sundowns weren't the only team that went and played out at the FIFA Club World Cup. We had, I think, like 4 more African teams. Al-Hilal, I know where we had Casablanca, where the Esperance were also there, if I stand corrected. But they all didn't make it to the round of 16. What does that mean for African football? Like, are we ready to be competing at that stage if we can't even make it as far as the last 16?
I think the biggest observation that came out of this Club World Cup regarding African teams is a question that we've been asking ourselves also in the Betway Premiership. When it comes to the striking force and conversion rate, it's too low. You can't create 14 opportunities and then only have 2 shots on target. And I think that it's the small margins. The higher you go in football, whether it be on the continent or internationally, that makes the difference. The small margins. You score more goals than obviously the opposition, you will win games, but you can't keep creating. And I look at Widad, and I look at players like Cassius Malula and Lorch. They were unbelievable. Lorch especially. I think obviously he put himself on the map with his performances, what he produced, and managers were looking all over. Where is this player? Who is this player? Why we haven't seen him? We have the talent on the continent. It's just a matter of obviously developing it early. And even when it comes to the striking force, those are things when you teach players at a young age what to do in a certain position, it's something that stays with you for life. So even from a development point of view, I think that's something that we need to improve on. We look at players at 14, 16 when they're already at an age where they think they know everything. We've got to start developing players from 6 years old. And we've seen it even with Trent Alexander when he left Liverpool. He was there for 20 years at the age of 26. So it shows, obviously, the progression as to how we got to be a first-team player for Liverpool. Not just the fact that he's doing well in the first team, but there was certain people that obviously contributed to his career and him understanding the game of football.
I think, after this Club World Cup, I don't envy the job of Hugo Broos. He must be confused who to take and who to leave. But for you personally, who are your favorite standout players from the Club World Cup from all African teams?
Yeah, I've got to bring it back home. I think for me, then because in Lorch, I think Lorch he was phenomenal. He was effective. Just unfortunate the last 2 games when the opportunities came to him, he just couldn't convert it, whether it's losing his footing or not making the right decision. But I think what he produced on the field shows obviously that we can compete at a high level against big teams, whether it be Man City, whether it be Real Madrid. These guys can compete. Esperance even showed that they can go and win games. It's unfortunate, Al-Hilal also, you score 4 goals, you lead 4 times and you can't win a game. But that also where the discipline comes in. When you score so many goals, as a unit, not as a defensive unit, goalkeepers and defenders, as a team, you need to have that resilience to not concede. That's probably another issue also when it comes to African teams, that we sometimes, too casual in our approach and not disciplined enough in order to be structured. Structure is always important because when it comes to the field, the players will have that freedom to go and do express their own ability, their talent, but the structure itself is the default. When things don't go well, you know exactly what to do in certain situations.
Godman, let's bring it back home for a bit. You're a Capetonian. That's what they call themselves here in
Yeah.
Cape Town Spurs, another team from Cape Town, a team that actually, I think you were part of their development and also went professional with them.
Yep.
They've been relegated from the Motsepe Foundation League, so they go into the 3rd division. And then we have another team from Cape Town in Cape Town City that's just been relegated, and they're going to play in the Motsepe Foundation League. Man, what's happening there in Cape Town? What happened to players that knew how to kick the ball like you?
Yeah, it's sometimes it's not just the players, to be honest. I always believe when things don't go well, you need to look at the top. Most things filter down to the players onto the field, and if things are not done properly, if the club is not run properly, then you have to ask yourself questions. It's just unfortunate that in the same season that both clubs got relegated, one from the Betway Premiership, one from MFC, the Motsepe Foundation Championship, and even Cape Town City, getting relegated to the Motsepe Foundation Championship. I think they underestimated the quality of the league. Both also Cape Town Spurs, because halfway mark they thought they could still get out of the situation, and they're stuck with the coach. And for me, my benefit of getting success or having success with Cape Town Spurs was more understanding the players and the cultures, that I didn't have to do everything myself. As a coach, you're a leader, but it doesn't mean you know everything. And I was fortunate enough with my technical team of Calvin Marlin and Nasif Morris. We found a balanced team. We picked a diverse team. We had 4 generations of age groups from 16 to 40. So also when it comes to the playing field, you don't always have to give instructions. Players know what to do because you train these things and they understand it. Cape Town City, obviously, it's disappointing in the sense where, they had a good squad as well. Both actually, Cape Town Spurs and Cape Town City. But good squads also get relegated, and I think they just underestimated the quality of certain clubs in the MFC when they came up against them. And games ran out. You always, as a coach and players, you think you have another game, but the time runs out, and eventually you find yourself in a situation where the hole is so deep you can't get yourself out of. So I'm just disappointed and sad for the talent in Cape Town. There's a lot of talent. It's just, where is that talent going to go to now? With Cape Town Spurs already obviously out of the professional setup, and then Cape Town City now in the 2nd tier of South African football.
Man, I think where tactics are concerned, you definitely the go-to person, because you know how to properly analyze a team's performance and how they won, and like what structure they used, and this is the reason why they won, right? So going back to the Club World Cup, Al-Hilal starting 4-3 extra time victory over Man City. That came as a shocker. A lot of us thought that Man City were going to win that. And I almost bet, and thank God I didn't, but I almost did. I was going to put my money on Man City.
Yeah.
What do you think Al-Hilal did right in that match?
Everybody's surprised, obviously, with the Man City result. But I think they sort of gave us a warning against Real Madrid when they drew 1-1. And this is the team from Saudi Arabia. How can they draw with Real Madrid, 15 times winners of the Champions League, 5 times winners of the Club World Cup? End of the day is you look at that Al-Hilal team, from the back, goalkeeper Bono, to the front, it's players that played in big European leagues before. So they have the understanding, they have the mentality of going on the day and performing as a unit. I think they proved that against Real Madrid with their resilient performance, and then I think the way they attacked Man City, it showed us as well that you can never underestimate the opposition. Man City were surprised, that's no doubt. They knew the quality that Al-Hilal possessed, but they didn't approach it in the right way, maybe the right manner of killing off the team before they actually come at you. So Al-Hilal have showed us again that even being a team from Saudi Arabia, they can compete at the highest stage. And again, I think the goalkeeper, for me, Bono, has an unbelievable season, the Moroccan goalkeeper. And he proved again in the Club World Cup his worth. And he could still possibly, for me, compete in the Big 5 league on the European continent.
I just think this is the beginning of the end for Pep Guardiola.
Well, there's 2 Peps at the moment, isn't it? So you need. I thought there's probably the best signing he made besides Cherki and Reinders. Was signing Pep Londres, obviously a former Liverpool assistant. So maybe that's his way of getting the Premier League back from Liverpool. We're going to have to wait and see.
Goedman, PSG thrashed Inter Miami.
Yeah.
4-0. And I mean, a lot of people are saying that, yeah, it was predictable, but you can't take away the fact that Inter Miami have a Messi playing there, they have a Busquets, they have Abidal, and they also have Suarez. These are guys that know how to compete at a high level. What happened there?
Quality. You know, you mentioned 4 players. You look at PSG, I think they've got about 16 players they can even bring off the bench. You know, a couple of these games, Dembele hasn't even played. You know, Doué, Bakola, Javicha, Kvaratskhelia, these guys are top quality. And the most underrated player I always believe it's in any team, when the team is successful, is the number 6. And for me, Vitinha has been phenomenal. What he does with the ball, his off the ball, his vision, his awareness, his this connection with his fellow teammates. I think that is what makes a team tick. Everybody will always tell you the engine room is the midfield, but you need somebody to obviously to kickstart that engine. And Vitinha has been that player for them. Not just in this Club World Cup, he also showed in the final of the Champions League against Inter Milan what they can do. So the surprise, maybe not so much for me as far as PSG, because I think they'll be strong contenders for winning this Club World Cup. Their biggest challenge obviously will come now playing against Bayern Munich.
Hotman, I think we need to just give Mamelodi Sundowns their flowers, eh?
Oh, yeah.
A team that played to a goalless draw against Mamelodi Sundowns beat Inter Milan, a team that was a runner-up at the UEFA Champions 2-0 at Fluminense. I mean, I don't even know how they won that one, but Inter Milan out.
Yeah, I think it showed us, and it showed the coach also, the new coach, Chevo of Inter Milan, that he's going to have to refresh that squad. I think there are too many players over the age of 35, players that obviously maybe cannot compete as far as the speed of opposition are concerned, because you can't have a season that they've had, leading the Serie A for most part and losing it on the last day, losing 5-0 in the Champions League final, and then when it comes to the Club World Cup, not putting in a performance worthy of actually progressing. Fluminense, obviously, they managed that game against Mamelodi Sundowns. Also, Sundowns, in some respect, could have won it. We know the opportunities they had, but Fluminense knew all they had to do was get a draw in order to progress. So they managed the game. They knew exactly how to approach it, and when it comes to obviously winning games and the conditions itself, I think South American teams, and more specifically Brazilian teams, have shown us that they can handle the conditions. It's very similar to where they're playing, and they're mid-season as well. So a lot of momentum is with them, where most of the other teams is post-season and some pre-season. Brazilian teams are really taking it in their stride and making the best of the occasion.
Real Madrid, Borussia Dortmund also won, and they all through to the quarterfinals. But the one that I want to talk about the most is this is going to be quite interesting, because I believe both teams come as underdogs, but look at how far they've gone. Fluminense versus Al-Hilal. Who do you see winning it there? I say Fluminense.
Yeah, I think professionally, I think Al-Hilal has a better structure, better, I think, discipline. Fluminense have a few weaknesses. I think even in the last game, Inter Milan probably waited too long in order to exploit those weaknesses. A game is 90 minutes, not just 45, and Inter thought they could wrap it up in 45 minutes. I always say that some teams will allow you to come back into the game and some won't. So you've got to go from the first whistle and apply the pressure, and that's what Fluminense did, scoring in the 3rd minute. So knowing that Inter Milan will be on the back foot and making the best of that situation. So they've got a lot of skill, a lot of flair, but I think over the whole squad, over the whole 11, I think Al-Hilal has a better chance of progressing.
Bayern Munich play PSG. Is this the end for Bayern Munich?
I think it is. I think PSG have shown us again why they are the current European champions, the UEFA Champions League winners. Bayern Munich have tried. They've shown obviously their quality as well, but I think pound to pound, I think PSG will come out of this game probably 3-2. Will be an exciting game, but I think PSG will have too much quality for Bayern Munich.
A goal nyana for Hurricane maybe?
Probably. He's always on the score sheet. He always creates his own bit of luck, You always find him in good positions. I think he's a proven goal scorer. He's one of the best in the world. He knows where the back of the net is, and even your commentators are sometimes surprised of how we actually managed to find the back of the net. But that's something, again, when you develop yourself to a way that you don't even have to look at the goalpost, because that's one thing that doesn't move. The ball moves. He knows exactly how to get the ball into the back of the net, whether it be with a header, left foot, right foot. He's got all the qualities for obviously being a top striker.
Another interesting one here is, I think this is the repeat of the 2012 Champions League final, if I'm not mistaken. Real Madrid play Borussia Dortmund. I think it's also clear. I think it's safe to say that Madrid are going to take this one.
2012, you're going far back. I'm sure 2 years ago they were in the final. 2012, some kids weren't born yet. so yeah, no. Obviously, I think 2 years ago Dortmund were losing finalists to Real Madrid. So, it's nice to see these teams coming back, because Dortmund also had a disappointing season in the Bundesliga. Changed their coaches in order to get obviously more success. So. And both teams at this moment in time, obviously Xabi Alonso, in a short space of time, what he's achieved already with Real Madrid, everybody's saying, it looks like they're coming back. We also do know when you have so many big egos in your team, it's a matter of time before one of those players are not going to be happy, because you can't play everybody at the same time. That's the reality. But which players will understand it and which players will accept it is the biggest question. But I believe Xabi Alonso obviously understands the club culture. He knows what players are supposed to do. And Dortmund as well, I think, they're on the road to recovery and getting back to the success to when they actually won this, where most kids weren't born as well. In 1997, winning the Champions League, I think they know exactly. And you look even across Europe, how many players have come from Dortmund? I think that for me, your Bellingham, I think Dembele, Hakimi, all these guys came from Dortmund through that, development stage and ended up at big clubs. So it's not a small club. They know exactly also what to do, how to get the best out of players. So it will be an interesting game.
Chelsea play Palmeiras, and I think also that one, personally, I think Palmeiras is going to advance. I don't see Chelsea winning this one. But man, you're the tactical genius. What do you see happening?
Chelsea won the last game and don't give them a chance. That's quite surprising. I don't think most betting companies will give them, I think, a negative report on the last game and progressing from this. They've shown that they can stick it out. They've shown, obviously, that they have the character to get to the next stage. And I think that's what it's all about. When it gets to this time of the tournament, I always say it's more about results and performance. You want to get, obviously, all the teams that's in it now, or even that went to the tournament, they had the goal of winning the tournament. Nobody goes to a tournament and say, okay, I want to get to the last 16. That's not a goal, because what are you telling me? Your players are, you're not good enough to get to the final. So everybody went with the intention of getting to the final, and I'm sure Chelsea is the same. Nobody gave them a chance last year of winning the Conference League. The coach won it in his first season. So again, I think that might be a surprise to everybody, but I think Chelsea will come even out on top in this particular game.
If you had to predict a semi-final of Khotman, which 4 teams do you see advancing from the quarterfinals?
It's a tough one, but I think PSG, Chelsea, the Fluminense, Al-Hilal. I'm probably going to go Al-Hilal. The last one, it's a tricky one. I can't put my finger on this as to who's the last one again.
So the last one is Palmeiras versus Chelsea.
Yeah, no, so Chelsea, PSG, Al-Hilal.
And then Real Madrid.
I'm going to go Real Madrid. That's going to be my 4.
And obviously, I'll assume PSG are your finalists and probably winning.
My team to win it will definitely be PSG.
Okay, cool. Khotman, a team that you played for in England have been promoted to the championship. I mean, how do you feel about that? And, how far do you see them going? Coming that other season, do you think coming to the EPL?
Listen, I was very ecstatic. Obviously, getting it through the hardest way, which is the playoff. You got to play more games. You go to, obviously, they get opportunity to play at Wembley, which is great. I was fortunate enough to be in the last season when they were in League One to go and attend a game with Mark Fish. And even that particular game, they played the team at the top, Birmingham. And everybody in the stadium was like, oh, if we can get away with a 2-0 or 3-0 loss, it will be great. And they ended up winning that game. And both Mark and myself said to the directors, like, guys, if you don't have the confidence and the positivity that your team can do something, then how do you expect your players to actually go out and perform? And they won that game 1-0. And for me, I think that was the turn of their season as well, giving them more self-belief, knowing they can achieve something. And to be back in the championship, I think it's 6 years since they were in the championship before. But hopefully this is a step in the right direction, because the team has not been in the Premier League since 2007, which is quite a long time. You look at the fan base, you look at the whole structure of the club. I think they not just deserve to be in the Premier League, but I think everything around the club shows you they are a Premier League club, from the facilities at the training ground to the stadium itself, to the fans, the whole way the club is run. Obviously, finances makes a big difference when you can financially back a team. They've got that now as well with different shareholders and owners, and hopefully they achieve that, because I'm very happy that the team is back in the championship. But I think the two lower leagues, championship and League One, are the most difficult, because everybody's fighting to get to the Holy Grail, which is the English Premier League, and it's going to be a tough season for them. We know 46 games again. That is just league games, so it's going to be tough. But I think if they make the right signings and the right quality across the park, hopefully the manager can put it together and have another successful season, because I think they deserve to be in the Premier League.
Rodman, just in closing, Kaizer Chiefs are playing the Toyota Cup. They've announced their opponent in Asante Kotoko. This is a team that they played back in the days when there was still the Vodacom Challenge. Some kids weren't born at that time. But
Yeah.
How come you're not part of the Legend squad?
Good question. It's always a tricky one. Everybody regards me as a Kaizer Chiefs legend, and it's a word that obviously gets thrown around quite a lot. I always ask myself, what is a legend? What have you done? What impact have you made? Did you leave the club in a better position than you found it? How many years were you there? Probably the years for me is, I played obviously in South Africa for quite a few years, more than 10 years. So that regard of a legend will always be a tricky one. I played for the club, but whether I'm a Kaizer Chiefs legend, I'm not sure. I only played there for 2 years. In the 2 years, we did win 2 trophies. But yeah, I have not had an invite to actually be part of it yet. So let's see. I'm getting older, guys.
Rodman, thank you so much
Thanks.
for the time. And yeah, we can wrap it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Always a pleasure. Thank you.